Well, hello there. So today I'm just gonna do the teardown on my HDP50 and show my magnetic detent, sorry, and what I've done with the bolt and spring assembly. Now, this isn't a how-to. This is just some trial and error for me, so take it for what it's worth. I haven't proven anything with any of these modifications except maybe the magnetic detent, that it works really well when you're using steel ball bearings. So we'll get started. What I've learned, and I knew this already, but when I first got this, I got ahead of myself. These pins are supposed to come out in one direction. So it is from right to left if you're looking down the marker. I made the mistake of knocking them through this way. Still works. Granted, these pins are a little bit looser than they used to be, but they don't fall out. They haven't fallen out, and I've had this thing apart probably 50 times now. So punch, hammer. These ones I like to just kind of put up on a something soft there just to get them started. And so one other thing, you don't have to take this one out. This bottom pin, you can just leave it. It doesn't need to come out. This marker will come apart, no problem, just like this. So just push them out. Little short guy goes in the trigger frame there. The thin guy goes through your pick rail right there. And these two guys here, the long one, see these two pins are the same diameter. Yeah. But one is just slightly longer. The longer one goes through the receiver, through this top hole. So once you have that off, you can pop your top receiver off. Whoop. You can do this any number of ways. I could have just pulled the whole thing out. So receiver's off, pull your follower spring out. Voila. And there you have your inside. See, that pin didn't even need to come out. So you can just set this stuff aside. And that exposes my magnetic detent. So you can see it right there. You could run it on, so what this is actually is to be more specific, this is a 3mm by 10mm neodymium super strong magnet. They're really strong. So I've installed it with a little bit of 3M double-sided tape right there. Now, you can put it on this side as well, but the issue I ran into, and this is all cosmetic, is so when you're looking down your molded upper receiver, this fake ejection port here actually sort of intrudes into the interior side. So when you put the magnet on this side, it causes this plastic to bulge. Unsightly in my mind, but nevertheless, you can do it on both sides, but on this side, tucked right in that little kind of nook there, it doesn't flex your receiver at all. It looks pretty much factory. You can see there. Wow. It works really well. So we'll tear this right down. So that's the magnet. You can find those on Amazon. They're quite common. They usually come in like a pack of well, here was some earlier renditions. You get like a pack of, I don't know, there's like a 50 in there for like 10 bucks. So those ones didn't work. These ones work really well in my CQMF, but they were too small for the HDP. I wanted the maximum I could fit in here and still put the receiver on, so I knew that these balls would stick. So we'll pry this guy open here. Now, I've come a long way since I did my first HDP compact video teardown when I was like super nervous about stripping these screws and la da 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 da. I look like a seasoned pro now, but like I said, this one's been apart like 50 times, you know, just trying a bunch of different things. So I'm making it look easy. It is easy. Just get yourself a good Phillips eyeglass screwdriver. I can't stress that enough. These screws are small. They can strip easily. And when you're tight, make sure, you know, it's firmly in place when you're undoing them. And the same goes for when you're reassembling. All these screws are all the same length, so no need to worry about mixing them up. And again, when you're putting this together, no ugga-duggas. Yeah! Really just tighten them up till they're snug and you're good. There is no need to Loctite these or do anything crazy. I have had zero issues even after tearing this down 50 times or so. So take out all these screws. Oh, that one's not quite there yet. There we go. So, easiest way I find to get this apart. Now when they're new, they're probably a little bit tighter, but I think I got it down now. So usually what I do, kind of flex, put my finger in here and flex this front section up, just a little. You can say just to crack the case. Get something fairly thick. I use these car interior pry tools that I use for stereo gigs, and one that's thick enough to fit right in this spot here. This is where one of those push pins go through. So you just get it in there and pry it. Give it a good pry. Pry it as hard as you can until it just slips out. Grab it on the front again. And then do that one more time. Hold your CO2 chamber down and kind of just try and just grip the top half here. And just wiggle it. And you can see there's this pin here and these two locating pins here are the ones that kind of stick. So once you can see them moving up, it comes off like nothing. All right, so this is my inside. So my barrel, that you have, or I've at least talked about before. This is 4.5 inches, 15 millimeter OD with a 13 millimeter ID. It is choked slightly. By choked I mean, so when I cut this with a pipe cutter, it tightened the ends up pretty much to the point where actually you had to use a reamer just to open it slightly to get the ball in. Also, I grooved these. I grooved this for the slots. There's 2 slots here that locate this barrel. Now, the way I did that would be hard to show on camera, but I actually used one of these 1/2 inch steel ball bearings. Well, you know what? Let's sorry, just had to run away. So I actually used a pair of old pipe cutters I had. These are just mini ones. I found they work because they have this large sort of area here. And the way I did the groove in this aluminum barrel was I put my ball in like this. And literally just, I put my barrel in like this. And you can see just like you would cutting this off. Oops. So you have to go the other direction, otherwise the ball will spit out. So just like that. I'd roll it, tighten a little, roll it, tighten a little. It worked quite well, actually. So I did that to both ends. And a byproduct of that, because this barrel is a little bit looser, might be tough to see down there. You can see that ring that's kind of formed. There's also one at this end. Also another choke point. So right at that ring, the ball is actually like the perfect bore size. So, I mean, my theory is that the CO2 at least the air is getting trapped in that nice small space, and maybe it's helping, maybe it's not. The next thing, the follower. I know I talked about this in the last one, so I snapped off the plastic piece there. So actually all I did was took a 440 by half socket head, threaded it in there I just pushed it in. I kind of forced it in and started threading it in. It threaded itself. This is just kind of poly plastic, so no need to run a tap or anything in there. It just screwed right in, and it works very well. But it is a little bit closer than the regular follower, so it does stop short, which is okay with steel balls, because the steel balls, what happens is they get stuck on this gate. So because this stops short, it doesn't try and push a ball halfway through, and the gate functions very seamlessly. So that's that guy. This is the next thing I did. So I'm gonna pull my valve out here and show you. Just clean this off a little bit here. So normally you have, if I can get this out, this is your bolt guide / stop. So it fits here. But if you notice, mine's a lot shorter. Hang on, let me get this. So the factory one actually goes all the way to here. So when your bolt travels, oh, I can unlock the sear here. I'll put the barrel back in so you can visualize this. That is about where the bolt hits the stop, and that is the maximum compression of the factory spring. So when the factory spring is completely compressed, is about the exact point this bolt hits the factory stop. Now, you can see that gap right there. So essentially this marker is launching air between probably I would say maybe a 5/16 inch gap. It's launching it into the barrel to launch a projectile. Now, and that's the purpose of this gate, is it closes to make a somewhat airtight seal. It does work pretty well, I might add. But my theory was if I shorten this stop, the bolt could actually travel all the way into the barrel, like a regular paintball marker, like a first strike marker or a M17, where you notice those scuff marks in your barrel is because the bolt is actually pushing the ball into the barrel and firing the air at the same point. So my hope here was to make this more efficient. I felt like the CO2 seemed like it just depleted very quickly, and now this is double deleted. It is going to deplete fast. But I'm looking for ways to improve shot count, but at the same time keeping my FPS up. So this was one of them. So again, you can see there. But the problem I ran into was I cut the spring, factory spring. This isn't the factory spring, by the way. This is a Dynaline from my auto parts store. I cut it too short. So it wasn't strong enough to reset the bolt, but it was short enough that the bolt could get all the way into the barrel. Unfortunately, to get this to properly reset, I'm right about there. So if you look, I'm probably about half the, I probably could have just cut half the factory stop here. And I had to cut the spring, make the spring longer. So I'm still maybe an eighth of an, oh, that's it magnetized the whole case. Maybe an eighth of an inch short here of being completely inserted into the barrel. Ideal? Nope. But it is an improvement, at least in my opinion, to some degree. In my testing, I showed a measly 6 FPS increase doing this. That's using these steel ball bearings, 8.35 gram. Might realize some more gains. I have some smaller or some lighter riot balls coming. And again, this detent system, it was designed for steel balls. So when you cut your, sorry, I'm kind of getting off track here in any case. So that's the bolt modification. Now, again, don't go cutting your bolt yet or cutting your stop. I got a factory marker that I'm gonna test back to back and see, is it worth doing this? Is it, you know, is it a mod that is worth the risk, I guess, because, you know, there's always some risk. You could foobar this up when you're cutting it, and well, we all know getting parts for Umarex markers is pretty much next to impossible. You got to buy a second one. Yeah. So that's that. Oh, you know what else I forgot to mention? I'll take this out of here. You know what's better than the factory bump stop? Recognize that? That is a Mil-Sig or a Vulcan O-ring. It fits perfectly onto the air chamber here. It is of slightly larger thickness, and I mean probably 2 millimeters, like you guys are shortening your pins. So when I put this on, just catches the end, so it's just enough. I tried 2, and it wouldn't, the bolt wouldn't reset. It just spit all the air out. So maximum 1 Mil-Sig or Vulcan M17 O-ring, or originally actually I was using the FSC a First Strike, you know, the rounded O-rings, and it worked identical. I just aesthetically, I think the square one probably is better as a bumper as opposed to the round one, but either or, they both work. Again, so this was the spring. This is a aftermarket spring that I had to source because I cut my other one too short. The original spring, I remember I microed it, I think it was 60 millimeters. And 60 millimeters was a factory spring. I can't remember this one. I think it's 35 I cut this to. It was a 40. It was 40. It's compressed a little slightly there. So I cut it to 40, and it's functioning perfectly fine with that spring. I'm not getting any weird false resets or loss of air. So, I mean, that's about the gist of the modifications I have done so far. Well, let me put this back together. Okay, so I showed you the bolt. Showed you the bolt stop. There we go here. Go like that, like that. I'll put that in there. Actually, I find it easier now to just put this together like this. And it's because the spring's short. You're not pressing, you're not trying to compress so much. Oh, there's dog hairs in there. Compressed so far. Just like that. She's back together. So when you reassemble this, make sure, I can already see right here this sear spring. See it popped up here, so I just push it down. Make sure your trigger is all the way down and this arm here is locked into the gate. There's a slot there. Barrel's in. Now I'll put the follower. I do that a lot, forget the follower, and then I have to take all those screws out again. Alright, so just stick it back together like so. Main thing I watch out for is once you get these two and this pin right here aligned, it pretty much just snaps together. And at this point, as long as you keep your thumbs or your hand on it anyways, it's not gonna pop apart on you. So once that's together, just make sure it's all snapped nice and tight. And you can run your screws back in. Again, just snug, no ugga-duggas. Sorry to bore you with the screwing around, but it's a must. And it just demonstrates that, you know, this is real time. It doesn't take that long to tear this apart once you're comfortable doing it a couple of times. You know, you get an idea where everything goes. And where it doesn't go, like when you try to put your case halves back together, I'm speaking from experience, and something like this gate isn't locked in properly and you can't figure out what the heck is going on. Well, I learned by trial and error. Main thing is you don't let them springs fly all over the place and you'll lose them. There's only two in there, so it isn't a difficult process to not lose them. I like to pinch this one just to make sure my barrel gets nice and snug in there. There we go. What do we do next? Okay, so I used to have this hockey taped on, but I'm using this 3M tape now, so I'd have to stick that magnet back on because it was covering these screw holes, but I don't have to do that anymore. So what I do is take your inner exo cage, I don't even know if that's possible, but stick it back together. And put your follower spring in. And what I'm using here is, I got a couple of these plastic Delrin, or they're just plastic washers that came in a washer kit. I can't give you the specific size because the kit is all, you know, it came from Amazon and it was just completely garbled up. Nothing was in its proper little locating box. So I used 3 of these, drop them in there, and you put your follower spring together, slip your barrel in like that. You got to get over this, over your indicator there, and then slide it forward. And what those shims do is they prevent the follower from getting into that lock position. So especially with the steel balls, when you fire and this is full and you fire a first round, this actually kicks up and locks in, and that's what snapped off my plastic follower there. So once you have it back together, you can do these pins in any order. I like to do this front skinny one first and make sure that you put the smooth end in first from the left side. You can see the ribbed edge there. And I just kind of hold it together like this. and push it in. You see how easy that went in? I can just use my punch to push it back in. There you go. Then I do the trigger frame, which is this little guy. Same thing, smooth in first from the left. And the two larger pins, so the longest one goes in the receiver, and the shorter one goes into the top of the beaver tail there. And that one normally I can't push in, so you gotta tap it. And take my punch. One more little whack there. That's it, that's all. Hope that's helpful. Again, this wasn't to show you the delete. I'm gonna do that one on another one that I have when I get some parts in here. And for those people that this was a factory barrel. Normally you got this plastic or rubber looking dent on the end. And mine was torn to crap because of these steel balls. So something I was trying at first was actually a piece of undersized like silicone hose. And I did undersize because obviously the factory rubber has a ring inside here that kind of captures the ball. That would be the detent. So here what I was trying to do, I don't know if I'll be able to do this right now because I was heating these up in hot water to get it on here. Yeah, you can see it's undersized, but the object is that once this was stretched on, the end here kind of coned in a little and acted as the detent. It did work, but it took some fussing to get this on there. So I mean that's an option for if you're not using the steel balls and the magnetic detent. Where did it go here? There it is. All right, that's it for today.